One of the things you mentioned, Jackie, is later today, the 39th lottery for contestants for the most beautiful bulldog, because there's so many bulldogs that are running for this competition. And one of the things way back in the day, we first started getting into media that got a lot of attention is the winner of the most beautiful bulldog contest nipped somebody, and then they were not originally going to be allowed to be part of the parade.
Did they relinquish the crown?
They were going to, but we got everything resolved there. But when a dog bites somebody, it really is a big deal.
Yeah,
it's something that you can't just sweep under the carpet, and that's the reason Kim Baer is here today to talk about dog bites and dog owners, the responsibility that goes along with owning a dog.
That's right. You know, it's springtime, and people are out, with their dogs, walking in the park, playing in the park, playing in their front yard, and so let me say right up front, I love animals. So this isn't anything having to do with what a vicious dog is or isn't, but it's what the law is. And so if you own a dog, you really need to know what you need to do to protect yourself. So
I'd say where I get confused, is this a state thing or is this city by city, county by county? Because I think that's where I get confused when it comes to animal laws.
Yes, it's city by city.
City by city.
Yep, and it varies dramatically. So as an example, in Des Moines, I think Des Moines has some of the strictest laws. You have to have insurance. I believe it's for $100,000 to cover your dog. Yes, as well if it's qualifies as what they call a vicious or aggressive dog. And so if you look up the ordinance, it will tell you what types of breeds you need to have insurance for. You have to have it always on a leash. You have to have a fenced yard. I mean, there's all sorts of requirements. So, and if you violate, the statute or that, in this case, the ordinance, you certainly can be, given a ticket.
Right.
So, not only that, but then also you're liable for whatever the dog does. So, what's interesting is there seems to be a misconception. A lot of people will say, well, my dog had never bit anybody before, and so people seem to think there's one free bite, which is not the case. So in Iowa, and this would be state law, so this would be everywhere. In Iowa, it's strict liability. So if you have an animal and that animal bites or attacks somebody, you're strictly liable. And what that means is you don't get to say, I didn't know, he's never bitten anybody, he's a loving dog, he's always been great. There are some exceptions, and that's an example would be if you've got your dog in your front yard and a child comes into your yard and you tell the child, hey, get off, don't come near my dog. My dog is not a nice dog, or my dog doesn't like kids, and so the child is trespassing. So you've given a warning. Then there might be an argument that the child shouldn't have been there, and so you shouldn't be liable.
What if you have signs up in your yard? Beware of dog. No trespassing.
Right,
things like
right,
that.
and
you see people have those posted all over.
Right, and I think they do that specifically for this reason. So if somebody's trespassing, if they're there and they're not supposed to be there, now if your dog breaks loose and runs down the sidewalk and bites somebody, you're going to be liable. You're in the park, your dog attacks somebody, you're going to be liable. And then the question usually just is damages. And unfortunately, a lot of times with these dog bites, it leaves scars. The other thing I want to say to dog owners is if your dog bites somebody, don't grab the dog and run away, because people get scared and they think, oh, they're going to put my dog down. And because what happens then is if whoever's been bitten, if they can't verify that the dog had rabies within a certain amount of time, and it's a short time frame, I think it's within a day or two, they have to get the rabies shots. So just because you got scared and ran off, and so I've had lots of cases where people have had to have rabies shots because the owner of the animal was scared, and the animal was never ended up being put down. So it is case by case situation. But
so what is proper protocol in the unfortunate situation that something like this should happen? What is proper protocol?
Right. Then you want to make sure that you give whomever's been bitten or attacked. You want to make sure you give them your contact information. Assure them, look, my dog has had the rabies shots. I've got proof. Usually, even with the rabies shots, animal control is going to want to take the dog and quarantine it for a certain amount of time just to make sure. And that way, this person that's been bitten doesn't have to go through.
Okay, I want to ask you the definition of what do they consider bitten by a dog?
Right.
Is it breaking the skin? Is it grabbing onto somebody?
It can be a scratch. It can be, an attack, really. So anything that leaves a mark. Now, obviously, if you were to call my office and you had a scratch and it goes away, we're probably not going to handle that case because we only take cases where there's been a serious injury. And I think most lawyers are the same way. But so if you've got something that requires stitches or it's going to leave a permanent mark, it's going to need, sometimes surgery. I've seen some really horrible situations where dogs have attacked children, and I don't want to. It's morning time, so I don't want to get into that. But but so what you need to do if you own a dog is number one, you need to check your ordinances where you live to see what applies. If you're a landlord and you know that your tenants have a dog, you need to make sure that the tenants are complying, and probably make sure you have insurance to cover that dog. So you can get a rider for your policy to cover. Now, are you talking about the landlord, or are you talking about the people that own the dog? I would say both. Because here's what can happen. So let's say, Lou, I own an apartment complex and you live there, and you've got a big dog, that might qualify as an aggressive breed, and I know that. And I don't, say to you, hey, Lou, let me see your proof that you're following the ordinance. Or maybe I know that your dog has bitten somebody in the past and I do nothing. I arguably now am liable because I'm the property owner. So you just have to be careful if you're a landlord or if you're an apartment complex manager. You need to pay attention to what your rules are, enforce them. And then, I know it sounds a lot of times like I'm selling insurance, but I just can't emphasize enough. Insurance, because when something bad happens, if you've got a rider on your homeowner's policy that covers the dog, you'll be good, So.
And I think that's the key. But a standard homeowner's policy doesn't always cover it.
It doesn't always cover it, or the limits might be very small. They might only be $10,000, which if you've got somebody that's got, maybe a permanent scar on their face or on their arm, that's $10,000 is probably not going to cover it because they're going to have medical bills and everything else. And then what you need to know is if you've been bitten or attacked by a dog, you don't have to prove that dog is mean or vicious. It can be, the cutest little puppy in the world, but if it's bit you and it's left a mark, you probably have a claim.
Yeah, sometimes some of the smallest ones are the ones that seem to be most aggressive too.
That's true. That's true. It's not always the big dogs.
Right.
So. Okay. Well, some great knowledge this morning. We're continuing to have some amazing guests this morning. If people have more questions, because I think that's the biggest thing is it can be an unknown, stressful panic situation. Calm down. People want to know exactly what they're supposed to do. They can talk to an expert.
Absolutely. Just give us a call, or call your own lawyer. But if you call our office, we offer a free consultation. So, and that's the big thing. We want to make sure we get everybody educated, listen to what's going on in your situation, and help you out. So just give us a call at 279-2000.
Because you've dealt with these cases a lot.
Oh yeah. I've dealt with them a lot. Yes.
So go to the experts.
Yeah.
There you go.
All
Perfect. All right. It is 7:39 right now. Don't go too far away. We are going to be right back. You're watching CW Iowa Live in Weston Boy.